I will share a little bit about my story. My name is Abigail Johnston, as Laura introduced me at the beginning, and I've been involved with survivingbreastcancer.org. Well, according to LinkedIn, it's been more than 50 years, 5 years. So I got involved with them relatively early on before COVID, when they would still actually go in person to places and have in-person events. And so I've been privileged to serve on the board, as well as chair this MBC leadership committee for the last several years since we dreamed it up, which is basically the way everything happens. And now we have some subcommittees, and so we're definitely growing. But I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, invasive ductal carcinoma, back in 2017. That diagnosis was what we call de novo, Latin that means from the beginning. So I never had an early stage diagnosis. I was metastatic from the beginning. I was 38 and got my first mammogram in coming to my doctor and saying there's this lump, and I had not been screened previously. I was breastfeeding my 2 boys at the time. And I am very thankful that no medical provider said to me, "You're too young for breast cancer," because there are some people who are diagnosed prior to 40 who struggled to get scans, because medical professionals often forget that when there is a germline or genetic mutation, which we have, that you can sometimes get breast cancer prior to the general time when you're more likely to get breast cancer. And so I was misdiagnosed for a couple of months. We thought I was stage 2 for a bit, and then due to a medical mistake, discovered that I had actually been stage 4 from the beginning. So it was a very traumatic entry into this experience of metastatic breast cancer. I learned a lot in that experience. So I had a lumpectomy and started traditional chemotherapy, adriamycin and Cytoxan. Sometimes adriamycin is sometimes called the red devil, and it deserves that name, let me tell you that. So I began kind of that traditional early stage treatment until in the middle of that, we discovered I had been metastatic from the beginning. So I am presently on my 6th line of treatment, which is a clinical trial specific to immunotherapy. You heard Claudia a little bit earlier talk about the PD-L1 somatic mutation. Somatic meaning not in your DNA, something that the cancer acquired. And that particular mutation can indicate that someone is going to benefit from immunotherapy. And so that is part of the reason that I am in an immunotherapy trial. It's basically a vaccine. And so we are hoping that it works the way it's designed to, because the idea would be that once the trial is done, I would be able to not have to be on ongoing treatment. So metastatic breast cancer, for people who don't realize this, is something where you have to take medication to keep it in check, unless you are someone like Claudia, who has responded extremely well and is able to not be on ongoing medication. Otherwise, you have to be on medication until it no longer works for you. So the idea potentially that we could have treatment that would mean we don't have to be on medication forever is pretty compelling. And I wanted Katie to talk about clinical trials, and I wanted to talk about my clinical trial as well, because every medication that everybody on this panel has talked about, the only way that we have access to that medication is because there was a clinical trial, and then it was approved by the FDA to be able to be given to people in the United States. There are processes in other countries as well. And so we at survivingbreastcancer.org absolutely support the process of clinical trials. In fact, we have a whole page on our website dedicated to those organizations, those pharmaceutical companies who have partnered with us to share information about their clinical trials. Sad fact of the matter is, only about 3 to 5% of people who are living with cancer, specifically breast cancer, tend to participate in clinical trials, and that is a very small number. And so it's important for all of us, I believe, to consider Clinical trials, as Katie said, at every step of the way. It's not a last resort. It's not a Hail Mary. It's not just at the very end. It's important to consider that with your team. Not that clinical trials are good for everybody, not that everybody is going to qualify for a clinical trial, but we would urge everyone to consider that possibility every step of the way. And so I just wanted to highlight that a little bit, because I'm grateful every day when I have taken medication in the past. Somebody took the risk to allow a pharmaceutical company to see if that medication was safe, in order for me to be able to take that medication, in order for everybody on this committee, on this call, to be able to be stable for years and be with their families and all of that. So it's important to remember and consider that.